News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this busy Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Got a couple of news conferences going on live right now. On the left, you are seeing a news conference outside the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, where Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, you see standing in the blue shirt, alongside Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey, while Executive Director of the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, Dave Kerner, speaking right now. They are talking about a 4-day immigration operation that they did along with Border Patrol and ICE, called it Operation One-Way Ticket. We'll get you inside that news conference in just a minute. On the right, you're seeing Orange and Osceola State Attorney Monique Worrell, who is speaking now, just walked out and began talking about an increase in road rage cases in Central Florida. In fact, there was an arrest earlier this week, a Kissimmee man charged with shooting into an SUV in Poinciana. So we also expect to hear, or at least we expect Monique Worrell to be asked about some allegations that the Attorney General leveled at her earlier today, specifically about a couple of child predator cases that he said her office is not prosecuting, not handling correctly. We know there's been a lot of back and forth between the state and the state attorney, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I do want to go ahead and listen in live to this news conference going on right now in Brevard County as we hear officials talk about this immigration raid in Brevard. This is Executive Director Dave Kerner of the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles.
Provide infrastructure for roadside vetting so that when a traffic stop happens and the investigation tends towards the illegal status of somebody that is in that vehicle, we have Border Patrol and we have ICE with us in our vehicles so that they can, on the roadside, do the proper vetting to determine alienage. And that happens very quickly, and it's much more safe to do it on the side of the road quickly and get off the side of the road. The federal government, through the Department of Homeland Security, also provides resources from a logistical standpoint. For those of you watching this broadcast, behind these cameras is a facility where state troopers and other law enforcement officers can bring in real time the person detained for immigration violation right to a processing facility on site here in Brevard County. Sheriff Ivey has been so kind to provide us. What happens there is within a couple of hours, the illegal alien will be processed, will be vetted, will be sent through the proper procedures to issue the proper warrants for deportation, and then will be quickly moved by an ICE bus that is here, or in some instances a Florida Department of Corrections bus, right to a federal facility like Alligator Alcatraz or Deportation Depot, or one of the several ERO enforcement removal operation offices throughout the state, leaving much more bandwidth for our local county jails to house other illegal immigrants through the basic ordering agreements. It's state-led in that Governor DeSantis has directed myself and other state law enforcement leaders through the 287G program to stand up full-time immigration units. We have done that at the Florida Highway Patrol. I believe we're the only state law enforcement agency or otherwise to have full-time troopers dedicated to immigration enforcement 24/7, in addition to the nearly 2,000 state troopers that have been deputized by ICE as delegated immigration officers. And we deploy weekly to different parts of this great state, different counties, in conjunction with the local sheriff to run these operations. And it's locally augmented in the sense that our elected county sheriffs provide the deputies who know their community so well, who know how to conduct immigration enforcement operations. They provide basic ordering agreements so that we can house detainees in their local county jails. And they provide transportation of the UDAs, undocumented aliens, from jails directly to Alligator Alcatraz and Deportation Depot and other federal facilities. So that is the model. This model is really something that has shown great success. When the whole of government approaches this public safety problem together, when we work as one team, that is how we're able to locate and detain nearly 400 people in the span of 4 days. Colonel Howes, thank you for your leadership at the Florida Highway Patrol. Senator Mayfield, I'm so honored to have you here,
I want to dip in here because we're hearing Monique Worrell speaking right now and talking about the Attorney General, saying she knows it is his goal to take her out of office. She's now going into a little bit more of a response into some of the accusations leveled against her. Let's go ahead and listen in.
The dangers that can be out there when you have people who want to go soft on crime, which was ironically the theme again of his press conference this morning. However, after reviewing the public records surrounding that case, our office confirmed that none of the defendants that were referenced by the Attorney General in that press conference had any cases that came out of the Ninth Judicial Circuit. In fact, the case that he cited, Frankie Pinheiro, was out of the Fifth Judicial Circuit in Lake County, where he was sentenced to a 20-year prison sentence that was suspended and given 2 years community control. This demonstrates that his attacks were factually inaccurate and politically motivated, because he never corrected himself and he never made those leniency statements about the state attorney's office over in the Fifth Judicial Circuit. Similarly, the cases that the Attorney General spoke of today, he gave you inaccurate facts. So I'll go over those briefly because I think that facts matter. In fact, if you've been following me for some time, you know that the very theme of my administration is that facts matter. Because after all, if you can't depend on the state attorney's office to get facts right, then certainly our justice system is in great peril. So in one of the cases, the Attorney General discussed this morning, there was a case where an individual was alleged to be masturbating in public. And the Attorney General talked about the fact that this was an egregious offense, and I agree, it is egregious. The problem, however, in this case is that the Attorney General in his letter would lead you to believe that of the thousands of cases that come into this office on a daily basis, that I personally review each and every single one of them and make a charging decision as to the case. And that is, again, factually inaccurate, and he either doesn't know or doesn't understand the process of how a state attorney's office works, or again, he just has a reckless disregard for the truth. I will leave it to the public to decide which one it is. However, in that case, there weren't any charges brought, and I'm going to show you the case notes from the attorney who handled that case, who happens to be here with me today. And I want to be very clear. I did not have any personal knowledge about this case, but it took me 5 minutes to read the case notes that were well written by the attorney who was assigned to the case to understand what had actually happened in this case. So I'm going to share those notes with you today. It's important because I have asked my attorneys to be very, very specific in their case notes so that in the event that I have to discuss a case publicly, that I can go to those notes and find out exactly what happened. So in these notes, you'll find that first, going back to August the 18th, the attorney did extensive research on what he needed in order to prove this case successfully beyond a reasonable doubt. So that was back in August, and you'll see there that he cites cases, the cases that he researched that would show him exactly what he needed in order to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I didn't make up those cases. Those cases were there. If you look at the citations on them, they're 1991 and 1992 cases. So this is before I was ever state attorney, before the Attorney General was ever appointed to be Attorney General. This is case law, which we as attorneys, practicing lawyers, use as a guidepost on how we go forward on cases. So after my attorney did his job and did the research on what he needed to prove the case, on September the 17th, he said he spoke to the victim's father about what happened and the facts of the case, because as I told you, facts matter. He confirmed that the child did not see anything and wasn't aware of what was happening. He explained that based on the language of the statute, he could not charge the charge of exhibition, which would have been the felony in the case. And he also explained that because no other adult saw the defendant's penis, that he could not charge any of the misdemeanor crimes of exposure. He explained that the victim's father was upset, but he left the 45-minute conversation feeling that the victim's father understood why he could not go further. Now listen, we can't uphold the law and not uphold the law. We can't go forward on charges that the law prohibits us from pursuing. And I would submit to you this morning that although they did a great dog and pony show of telling you that they're going to do my job if I won't do it, if they go forward on these charges, they are not upholding the law, because the law is very clear and I didn't write it. So that's the case involving the masturbation. All things that are wrong are not illegal. And I'm not standing before you today telling you that what happened in that park was wrong. But I am standing before you today telling you that I trust the word of the attorney who was assigned to this case when he said, although those actions were wrong, he could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they were illegal. And that is the only standard by which we go forward in prosecution. Now, I want to talk to you about the second case, because this case, the comments that were made in this case would actually be considered defamation if I were not an elected official. When I received the Attorney General's email as he was taking the stage to have a press conference about this case, again, within 5 minutes, my executive assistant provided me with information that this case had actually been transferred to the Office of Statewide Prosecution. Now, the Attorney General wants you to believe that they took the case because we weren't doing our jobs. But I want to take you through the timeline of how this actually took place so that you can understand how dishonest the comments that were made today by the Attorney General and his starting lineup actually were. So what you're going to see here is a notice of prosecuting authority. And this notice of prosecuting authority was filed, you'll see the date up there, on June 10th of 2025. That is the date that it was entered into the system. And this notice of prosecuting authority was filed by the Office of Statewide Prosecution. Now, this is a notice that happens within the normal course of business, so this isn't anything that's out of the norm. And the reason that the Office of Statewide Prosecution would file this is to let us know that the offenses are multi-jurisdictional, meaning that these things happened in places other than the Ninth Judicial Circuit. And when cases happen in multiple jurisdictions, the Office of the Statewide Prosecutor has jurisdiction to prosecute those cases. Guys, listen, it's intricate for those who don't operate in the system. It is. But for people who do this work every day, we understand that this is what happens. We have forms that you fill out. We don't have to create any of this from scratch. We do this so often that there is a form in which the case will populate and the language is already there, because we do this every day as a normal course of business. So again, either the Attorney General doesn't understand the work that we do here, or he just has a reckless disregard for providing you all with the truth. In any event, on June the 10th, the Office of Statewide Prosecution provided us with a notice of prosecuting authority. On July the 8th, the Office of Statewide Prosecution, yes, this one, filed their information in this case. On July the 8th, the Office of Statewide Prosecution filed their information in this case. You will see all the different counts here. There are 8 counts of possession of child pornography, possession of child pornography. Is there a second page to this?
There's not.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it is.
Okay. You'll see there are 12 counts of possession of child pornography in this case, filed by the Office of Statewide Prosecution. For the public who may not know or understand, that is a separate entity from my office. The Office of Statewide Prosecution handles cases when our office doesn't. So on July the 8th, the Office of Statewide Prosecution filed 12 counts in this case. Thereafter, on July the 10th, my office closed out the case in our office. So again, it is dishonest and disingenuous for the Attorney General to get up there and say that we dropped the charges in this case. The Office of Statewide Prosecution notified us that they were going to be taking the case over, and after they filed the information, which is their charging document, we closed out the case in our office. This is the normal course of business. It is the normal way that things are done. The Attorney General's behavior would be laughable if the consequences weren't so serious. His leadership is what happens when arrogance meets incompetence, a spectacle unfit for serious times. He struts and shouts as if volume can mask ignorance, but all he's proven is that he's a punchline in a job that demands serious leadership. He continues to prove to be unserious about the responsibility he holds to protect Floridians. He has turned what should be serious public service into a circus act, loud, clumsy, and entirely devoid of substance. Every time he speaks, he reminds us that volume is not the same as vision, and chaos is not the same as leadership. These are the consequences when people are not elected based on their experience, but rather are appointed based on their relationships. It is clear that the underlying intention here is to unjustly remove me from office yet again. This morning, I am providing for you a track record of threatening letters that have been sent to me from either the governor's office or the Attorney General's office since I have been back in office. But as I have said here to you today, my sole focus is on doing the work of the people of the Ninth Judicial Circuit, and every single time I have to stop that work to respond to another circus show held by the Attorney General, it disrupts the work of the men and women here in this office. It undermines the work of the men and women here in this office. And as I've continued to say, you cannot support law enforcement and fail to support this office, no matter who holds the seat and how you feel about them. Questions?
Has your office attempted to reach out to the AG's office and said, come to us if you have questions about what's happening with these cases?
You will see multiple opportunities in there where we have responded to the Attorney General's office, correcting them on some misinformation that they have used as the basis for a threat.
What's your message for the public who might be watching both press conferences today?
One press conference is based on facts, and the other one is based solely upon a political agenda.
The child pornography case that was transferred out of your office, are you aware if it's still ongoing?
It is still ongoing, It is absolutely still ongoing, which is why it's baffling to me that the statewide prosecutor would take the stage and speak of the case as though he was not aware of the history of this case being transferred from our office to theirs. Not because we weren't prosecuting it properly, but because there was multi-jurisdictional offenses committed therein.
How do you break the cycle here?
You all break the cycle by electing people who actually care about people more than they care about politics.
You mentioned that this specific case was handled by a different attorney. You had not prior knowledge of this case. Is it common practice? This is something that happens?
Absolutely. So I am a rare state attorney in that I do prosecute cases, but like one or two, not the volume of thousands of cases that comes through this office on an annual basis. So again, either the Attorney General doesn't understand the inner workings of a state attorney's office, particularly one of this size here in Central Florida, serving a jurisdiction of nearly 2 million people. Certainly, I don't have personal knowledge of every case that comes into this building. So to say, as I am aware, I wasn't aware. I became aware very quickly when my executive assistant pulled the cases and I was able to read the case file. And I would recommend that before you go out and publicly accuse someone of doing something, that you at least take the time to do your due diligence by researching the actual facts of the case and the law. Since you are, I don't know, the Attorney General, you should probably be familiar with the law on how decisions are made.
Is there a way for your office to quantify how much time and resources you've had to put into combating these claims on top of the caseload you already have?
Far too much time. I will have to go back and look at every press conference. I will tell you this one was easier to pull together because we already had you all coming based on a different issue. But hours and hours of time, typically at least an entire day, if not more, goes into combating these responses. Because what I want is this. In the event that I am removed, I need everyone to know what went into that removal. Political agenda and the target, which is Central Florida, by people who cannot stand the fact that there is Democratic leadership in this area.
It appears we're having some trouble with our feed there from this news conference as it continues. We're going to go ahead and step aside, take a quick break here. We're due for that anyway, overdue for that. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. That Monique Worrell news conference still ongoing, but as you saw there, we are continuing to have some issues with our feed. It keeps freezing. We will continue to monitor that and bring you updates. We will also, in just a little bit, we'll play for you some of what the Attorney General had to say to kind of give you a little bit better context of what she is responding to. As I said, she was responding to allegations that she has been soft on crime, specifically regarding those two child predator cases that she referred to. One of them a child porn case, one of them a case of a man who was reported to be masturbating at a splash pad in a Popka. So we'll play that Attorney General news conference for you a little bit later to give you a little bit more context about what she was responding to. Obviously, all of this comes in the context of her first term in office being removed from the governor for failing to prosecute some things, and then the Attorney General in his news conference earlier today calling her actions as prosecutor with these cases, calling it gross negligence and systematic abuse, and vowing very clearly to hold her accountable. You heard the response from the state attorney about that, saying that the Attorney General is being dishonest and disingenuous, basically talking through the way those cases were handled and the reason for, at least in that first case, that charges were not dropped, or charges were not filed, rather, because she said that's not what the law is, and kind of read the definition of that and the legal precedent as well. So we'll get more into that in just a little bit, but we are continuing to track the tropics, where there is a lot going on right now in the Atlantic. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, we are keeping a close eye on the tropics.
Yes. So this weekend's forecast, Garrett, is incredibly complicated. There's so much going on with two tropical systems that'll be in our neck of the woods, generally speaking. So we're watching it really carefully. But the good news is that there is a very high confidence that this will miss us. It's going to be to our east, about 200 miles to our east, but it's going to be within view. And so on satellite and on radar, we're going to have what could be kind of an ominous sight off of our Florida East Coast, especially Sunday on into Monday with the passing of a tropical system. As of today, though, we've got a sunny start with some afternoon storms developing. We'll see about a 50 to 60% chance for rain, especially along and east of I-4. So in the near term for our Friday night football forecast, the Friday night football blitz, it's O'Galley versus Titusville today over in Brevard County. There could be some thunderstorms between 6 and 8 p.m. So the first half of the game may have a little bit of a lightning delay. Then that activity works toward Orlando. And then we'll kind of linger through midnight before finally dissipating. So we've got a pretty decent chance at some rain today. So that'll be the near term. That's our Friday forecast today. Now, as far as the tropics goes, we've got Hurricane Umberto to the east on the right-hand side of the screen. And to the left or the west is a tropical wave called Invest 94L. Now, Invest 94L is not organized, but it looks like it will be getting organized. And later today or tomorrow, will clear the islands of Hispaniola, including Haiti and the Dominican Republic, as well as Cuba, into the Turks and Caicos, into the southern Bahamas. And at that point, it'll be clear of the mountains that are so prevalent across that part of the Caribbean, and will have a chance to organize. And it's expected to semi-rapidly organize into a tropical storm named Imelda, and it could become a hurricane, a minimal hurricane. But here's where the complication exists. This is really interesting from a weather perspective, but makes for a really, really unsure forecast. Umberto is expected to become a Category 4 hurricane, a major hurricane. We've had 3 hurricanes so far this season. We've had Aaron, Gabrielle, and now Umberto. All of them major, right? Aaron was a Cat 5, Gabrielle a Cat 4. This one's expected to become a Cat 4 or maybe even a Cat 5. The reason is that there's so much anomalously warm heat content to the oceans. It's called the ocean heat content, or the sea surface temperatures in this case are so hot that if the atmosphere supports a hurricane, it can go all the way. If there's no wind shear tearing it apart, no dry air, it goes. And so naturally watching Imelda, we're like, future Imelda, is that going to get strong? Well, here's the thing. Umberto is going to be so strong as future Imelda forms that it, as all big hurricanes do, it will expel a lot of hot air and also a lot of sinking air called subsidence. And essentially, Imelda to the west there would absorb that dry air, and essentially it pulls the carpet out from underneath it. It can weaken it, kill it, if you will, and then essentially absorb the moisture or whatever's left over into Umberto and just add to the rain. It doesn't make it stronger, it just makes it rainier. Or if Umberto's close enough but not close enough to kill it, it could create like a gravity well, like a black hole kind of thing, where stuff gets pulled into that. And essentially, that's what could happen. This Cat 4 approaches a latitude of like Jacksonville, and as Imelda in that red shaded area works north, it could get pulled, like yanked eastward, yanked toward Bermuda. And that's what a couple of really reliable global models do. Other models say not so fast. This thing's going to slam South Carolina and bring flooding rains to the area. We just don't know yet for a couple of reasons. One being, there's no tropical depression or tropical storm yet. It's a tropical wave. It hasn't yet developed. So where it emerges and where it ultimately becomes a closed low north of that island of where Haiti and the Dominican Republic are, that'll help to determine where it is and then what the atmosphere looks like at that point. So another thing, just to add to the complication, this is getting deep into the weather, but you deserve to know what's going on. Upper level low pressure is expected to develop from a big trough in the east. And that'll happen this weekend. And what that will do is change the steering currents. So at the surface, it'll help to push a cold front through Florida. That'll be the deflection shield that keeps whatever forms out to sea. And you can see those little, almost like mustard colored gray lines. Those are the spaghetti models. And there's a consensus that whatever forms will go through the Bahamas, a lot of heavy rain in the Bahamas, by the way, and then work northward toward the Carolinas. After that, the models diverge. Does Umberto pull it eastward out in the middle of the Atlantic? Does the upper level low pull it northward into the Carolinas? Well, there are two schools of thought, and I'd say two equal schools of thought, because a lot of the models do take it into the Carolinas and Georgia. That would be a pretty significant flooding threat potentially, by the way. But others pull it out to sea, which would be a miss for the Carolinas. Now, we're a Florida-based TV station, so we hope everybody in the Carolinas makes it through this. Obviously, though, we're going to be focusing on Central Florida weather and Central Florida impacts. And the good thing is that there's certainty that this will be east of us, about 200 miles. And so it's really just of meteorological interest. That said, we will still catch some impacts because it is expected this passes around or within 200 miles of our coast on Sunday into Monday. So that will have impacts, especially on our coastal counties. But there will be a sharp cutoff as you head inland where there are very few, if any, discernible impacts other than kind of a busy breeze on Sunday and Monday, making it feel maybe a little bit more like fall with the air moving. But the worst weather at the beaches here will be Sunday and Monday with gusty showers from the outermost bands of then Tropical Storm Imelda or maybe minimal Hurricane Imelda, although a lot of the rain may be offset on the north and east side of the system, so there may not be much in the way of shower activity. But if it rains, if we get some showers on the coast, they could feature wind gusts over 35 to 40 miles an hour. Now, at the very least, there will be rip currents and dangerous surf, beginning on Sunday with 5 to 6 foot waves. Then on Monday, those waves ramp up to 10 to 15 feet. Huge breaking waves, by the way, hugely dangerous conditions, not to mention the rip currents. I mean, a lot of the beaches may be closed out as far as the surfing goes because the waves are just so big they crash. So it's going to be like this through at least the middle of next week with the wave action. Right now, everything's good at the beaches, although we're going to see conditions rapidly deteriorating as far as water conditions go starting on Sunday. So for today and for tomorrow, we'll be okay. But you will have to watch out for lightning this afternoon and especially tomorrow. Unfortunately, in Florida yesterday, in Highlands County, which is north of Lake Okeechobee, it's down like around the Sebring area, a couple of men from South Florida, from the Miami area, went up to Highlands County to go hunting. And they brought their dogs, and they were killed by lightning. And so 2 guys and 2 dogs all killed. Maybe one lightning strike got them. But these storms can pop up fast, and even though it's the end of September, lightning is still a huge force and hugely dangerous here across Florida. So that's going to be a concern this weekend. As far as today goes, there's a low to moderate risk for rip currents, 1 to 2 foot waves, and otherwise pretty calm conditions. But then tomorrow we get into about a 60% chance, mainly afternoon storms after some sun in the morning. And then on Sunday it becomes windy with the passage of that tropical system. And we're calling it a Fox 35 weather impact day for the anticipation, a nod at the very least, of the passing tropical system. Hopefully it stays far enough away where we don't catch very, very many effects inland at least. But it's going to make for some rough beach conditions and maybe even some erosion at times of high tide. So about a 50 to 60% chance of rain today. Looks like thunderstorms between 6 and 9 p.m. especially and along and east of I-4. Same for tomorrow. And then behind that system for next week, we'll dry things out and actually it'll become a little bit more pleasant with a chance for a couple of storms, but just not not as humid. So yeah, Garrett, it's a very interesting forecast, as has been the case recently in modern times with social media. There's all kinds of speculation, and I'd venture to say reckless speculation on the social media about, impacts here and there. Not that we want to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best, and that's essentially what the Carolinas is doing right now. But we just don't know after it passes Florida if it's going to be a slam into the Carolinas causing historic flooding, or if it's just going to get yanked out to sea. It's a very complex forecast, but hopefully by the end of today, we get a cone from the National Hurricane Center, a forecast cone, if not today, tomorrow, because either way, it's a short fuse system. If hypothetically it does hit the Carolinas, it would landfall Monday evening and Monday night. So, I mean, this is like, they have the weekend to prepare either for what'll be a hurricane or maybe nothing.
A little bit of time at least, and hopefully hopefully that gets pulled out to sea. Certainly hoping so. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
My pleasure as always. Thank you, Garrett.
We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. I do now want to play for you, as we heard from the Attorney General at that news conference in Orlando earlier today, talking about what he says soft on crime policies, targeting the state attorney, Monique Worrell, criticizing her and her office for not bringing charges in a couple of specific cases. We did already hear her response earlier in this hour live. Here is what the Attorney General had to say. He was joined at this news conference, I should note, by Congresswoman Laurel Lee, a Republican from the 15th Congressional District in Florida, and also the statewide prosecutor, Brad McVeigh. So here is the full news conference. It's about 20 minutes. The full news conference that led to that strong and adamant response from State Attorney Monique Worrell.
Statewide Prosecutor Brad McVeigh, Chief Matthew Williams from the Florida Highway Patrol, Apopka Mayor Brian Nelson, Apopka Police Chief Michael McKinley, and Apopka Deputy Police Chief Lavetta Quinn Henry. This morning we're here to talk about soft on crime policies. I think when we're looking across the country, so many of these recent tragedies, it's apparent soft on crime policies do not work. In most all of Florida, we have record crime lows that continue to go down. Murder rates decreasing, violent crime rates decreasing, and it's because we back our law enforcement and we give them the tools they need to be successful. Unfortunately, here in Orlando, we still have a pattern of soft on crime policies that are endangering families. Non-prosecution policies that are putting our families and our kids in grave danger. We've had a couple recent examples here with State Attorney Monique Worrell, where she has decided not to press charges in some of the most gruesome and horrific child predator cases. Recently, there was a man on a park bench masturbating while facing a bunch of kids playing at a public splash pad. There was video evidence of this, witness testimony, a father there with his 2-year-old just feet from this offender. The gentleman committed this gross act and then exposed himself in public. And while we had all of this evidence, an open shut case, State Attorney Worrell decided charges did not need to be brought. She gave this guy a free walk in the park, and now other kids are in jeopardy of having a tragic incident happen to them. In another case that my office was prosecuting, an individual that possessed and shared tons of gruesome child pornography videos, not just images, but videos of toddlers getting raped and abused. She dropped all charges. Let this guy go free. He made it almost out of the country up at the Canadian border. Thankfully, our office got him again, and we are prosecuting again, and we'll make sure that he spends the rest of his life behind bars. Because when it comes to these dangerous child predators, there's only one thing to do: prosecute to the fullest, ensure the longest sentences, where legally appropriate, seek the death penalty. But at the end of the day, we have to protect our kids. So I'm glad to be joined this morning by Congresswoman Laurel Lee. She is a former prosecutor herself. She's a mom. She's tough on crime. When she was Secretary of State in the DeSantis administration, working with Brad here, we kind of got the gang back together. They launched the Election Crimes and Integrity Unit that's prosecuted dozens of people across the state that have engaged in voter fraud. We now have the most secure elections in the country. We're the blueprint that every other state wants to follow, and it's because we enforce the law. It's not rocket science. Enforcing the law is not a partisan agenda. It's not Democrat. It's not Republican. It's black and white. Enforce the law, put dangerous people away off the streets, crime lows go down, and our kids are safe. So I'll let her come up first and share a few things. Thank you for being here, Congresswoman.
Well, thank you, Attorney General Uthmeier. It is indeed a pleasure to get to be here today with you, with statewide prosecutor McVeigh, Chief Williams, and all of the other men and women who are here who are committed to keeping Florida safe. Let me start with something that we can all agree on. Domestic violence cases and gun cases are not minor. They are the red flashing lights that tell us when violence is going to escalate. When a state attorney prevents these types of cases from being reviewed or lets a repeat offender out while awaiting trial, that is a public safety problem. Every charging decision is a public safety decision. It determines whether families are protected or whether danger is being put back out on the streets. And here's what we know. A small group of repeat offenders drive most of the violent crime in our communities. If prosecutors let those cases slide, if we look the other way, those same offenders will be in the headlines again and again. And we don't have to imagine the consequences. We can see them. On Monday, I will be in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a young Ukrainian refugee, Irina Zarutska, was murdered on a bus by a repeat violent offender who'd been allowed to go free. This tragedy wasn't the result of one mistake. It was the result of a chain of decisions, delays, and excuses that kept a dangerous man out on the street. That's what happens when a system treats violent recidivists as if they are harmless, and we cannot allow that to happen here in Florida. As a former prosecutor and a former judge, I know that our justice system works best when it is based on evidence and data, not emotion, when we can separate the violent recidivist from the person who can actually be rehabilitated, when we allow law enforcement officers to do their jobs, and when we can count on prosecutors who will do theirs. Prosecutors who respect the oath of office they take to enforce the law, not to make it, not to ignore it, but to enforce it. Because decisions to ignore criminal conduct erode public trust. No cash bail policies don't ask the only question that matters: is this person dangerous? So in Congress, we are working hand in hand with our colleagues here at the state to ensure that our partnership is strong, to support the call to protect our communities across America, to bolster safety and security at our prisons so correctional officers are kept safe, and to require prosecutors' offices to share the numbers. How many cases are prosecuted? How many cases are declined? How many gun cases are pled down? So that the public knows what's happening in their communities. So I'm proud to join my colleagues here today and so many of the men and women of law enforcement to keep that commitment to the American people. At the end of the day, this isn't complicated. Keep violent offenders off the street. Be honest about the results and use common sense. That's how we protect families. That's how we give real second chances to those who can succeed. And that's how we restore trust in our justice system.
Congresswoman Laurel Lee wrapping up her remarks there. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but then we'll get you back to the rest of this news conference. But before we do so, I do just want to give you a little bit of the response after we heard from the Attorney General James Uthmeier talking about a couple of those cases. We did hear from the state attorney talking about the legal precedent and saying that the statute, especially when it comes to that splash pad case, they did not have the elements that were needed for a criminal charge. The other case, she says they passed it on, or it was transferred rather, to the Office of Statewide Prosecution and then closed their case after the Office of Statewide Prosecution filed charges. You're about to hear on the other side of this break from the statewide prosecutor talking more about some of the details of this case. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more right after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. And let's go ahead and listen back into this news conference from just a little bit ago in Orlando as the Attorney General continues to call out the state attorney. And you're also about to hear from the statewide prosecutor.
So we're calling on her, this creep at the splash pad. We better have charges brought again. If not, we'll be working with the governor's office to reassign this case to another circuit where we will ensure that justice is served. This just cannot happen. There's a job to do. You take an oath to the people. You've got to do that job. Next, we'll hear from statewide prosecutor Brad McVeigh.
Thank you, General. Thank you for being here. I want to talk about the facts as they are in the first case the General mentioned. A father, his 2-year-old son, went to a local park, a splash pad, for a day of fun. What they encountered was a man less than 50 feet away on a park bench masturbating. The incident took about 4 to 5 minutes. The father did everything that you would ask a father to do. He didn't escalate the situation. He didn't take matters into his own hands. He went, he called 911, he watched the children and made sure they were safe. He took photographs. And the law enforcement did everything you would want them to do. They responded quickly. They talked to witnesses. They found the suspect. They apprehended the suspect, and they arrested the suspect. The father was shocked when he got a call less than 30 days later and learned the case had been dismissed. And the reason given was it lacked prosecutable merit. He wondered, to me, frustrated and shocked, how in the state of Florida a man could masturbate for 5 minutes in front of a 2-year-old and that not be a crime. He explained his story. He explained the case. And we listened. We took his account. We read the reports. And the father believes this is a case that should be prosecuted. And at the Office of Statewide Prosecution, we do too. This is a case worthy of prosecution. It's worth the fight for the children, for law enforcement, for the dad, for the community, and for the state of Florida. And I let the father know, we at the Office of Statewide Prosecutor, the Attorney General, we will do everything in our power to fight for children, for parents, for law enforcement, and for the community. We're calling on Ms. Worrell to reconsider her decision and do what's right. Thank you.
Thank you. And to round things out, we've got Matt Williams, Florida Highway Patrol.
Good morning. I'm Chief Matthew Williams, and I currently serve as the Southern Region Commander for Patrol Operations for the Florida Highway Patrol. And I just want to briefly speak about the vital role that prosecutors play in Florida's judicial system. In our state, each judicial circuit elects a state attorney, and their responsibility is both clear and essential. They represent the people of Florida in criminal cases. Every day, the men and women of law enforcement put themselves in harm's way to apprehend offenders in order to keep our community safe. Once an arrest is made, prosecutors step in to review the evidence, determine the charges, and bring those cases before the courts. This role is to carry forward the work of law enforcement to ensure that offenders are held accountable and that victims see justice. Under the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis, the mission of law enforcement is clear: to protect Floridians, uphold the law, and to ensure accountability. But this mission cannot be fulfilled by law enforcement alone. Our work must be matched with equal resolve from our prosecutorial partners who carry forward these cases we bring to them. This is not about convictions, it's about fairness, it's about accountability, and it's about protecting the public. Prosecutors must weigh the facts, apply the law, and make decisions in the interest of justice. And just as importantly, they must work hand in hand with law enforcement. From a partnership to ensure crimes are fully investigated, cases are properly presented, and that justice is ultimately served. When law enforcement and prosecutors stand united, our communities are safer, public trust is stronger, and criminals get the unmistakable message that Florida is in fact a law and order state. And quite frankly, every Floridian should have the expectation that our prosecutors and our elected state attorneys have the ability to understand and that they will apply and uphold the rule of law. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Governor DeSantis and our Attorney General for their unwavering support of those who work day and night to keep this great state safe. Thank you.
We got the best law enforcement in the country. We stand by them. I know that the governor's been their greatest champion. I thank them for everything they do. Thank you again, Congresswoman, for being here. We appreciate the fight you're bringing in D.C., especially when it comes to public safety and protecting our kids. Thank you, Brad, and your team. Thank you guys for the work you're doing. All right, I think we got time for just a couple questions. We're in a bit of a time crunch, but we'll take a few. If anybody has any. Yes. Well, we're gonna work to get this case reassigned if she chooses not to. I mean, you've all heard the facts. It's a pretty horrific situation. I hope she will change her mind and decide to do her job. If not, we will do it for her. These are just a couple examples of cases that are not being brought. There are still non-prosecution policies in writing that are on the books. I know she's made excuses, not having resources to address the cases, to address the backlog. We've provided several prosecutors to help that have cut down, on hundreds of cases, and we just want to get the job done. At the end of the day, if you're willing to enforce the law and put bad guys away, I got no problem. But if you're going to let creeps like this go free, we are going to have a problem. Yes.
Attorney General, as a mother myself, it's concerning what you said. So, what are some words that you just want parents to know in Florida, Central Florida?
Sure. Well, evil is out there. My number one priority is protecting our kids. We've made that very clear today with the internet and social media. That is the greatest danger. It is right under the nose of parents. Parents are the first line of defense. If you don't know what your kids are doing with their devices, go home and figure it out. We continue to make dozens of arrests, and the predators are getting access to the kids through apps like Snapchat, who our office has sued, Roblox, a gaming app. We've got investigations going into other apps as well, because right now it's too easy for predators to pretend to be kids, to use fake pictures, to tie into kids' vulnerabilities, and ultimately start to solicit personal information. So parents are the first line of defense. We're going to do everything we can to combat this evil, but it's there. Since I took office, our team has been involved in over 1,000 arrests involving child predators. Last week alone in Polk County, we arrested over 240 individuals in a sting that were either engaging in human trafficking, prostitution, or preying upon kids. Of those 240 arrests, the defendants combined for almost 700 priors. 700 priors. It just shows, again, that this repeat offense, soft on crime leniency, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. When people do these lewd and heinous things, they need to be held accountable. We need to put them away for as long as we can.
General, you presented this before against State Attorney Burrell. What makes this different this time? Because, again, you've offered assistance and it's been brushed away.
What makes this different? Well, I wish it was different. It really isn't. It's kind of the same old, offenders, some violent, being allowed to walk free. The facts of this case are so egregious. It is an open, shut case. Why would you not bring charges? You've got video evidence, witness testimony. You've got this dad that saw this feet away, made sure all the other kids were going to be safe, handled it correctly. Justice needs to be served. We can't let this happen, or others think they can get away with doing the same things.
And these are two very specific cases. What are the names of these defendants?
We can get you that detail on the side if you'd like it. Yes?
Attorney Burrell has been removed from office before. Is that a possibility going forward in these cases?
Well, it's an authority the governor has, so I'm not going to get out ahead of him or speak for him. She was reelected by the people, but we continue to see a failure of oath, a failure of duty. So, you know, we're going to look at this. We're going to look at ways in the short run to get cases not being prosecuted out of this jurisdiction where we can ensure they are. But as far as other things, you know, we'll have to monitor and see what happens.
The Attorney General wrapping up that news conference earlier today, and we have talked about a little bit of the controversy and the response from State Attorney Monique Worrell. We are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus. Then when we come back, we're going to have more on this immigration raid and the operation in Brevard County. You'll hear from the Lieutenant Governor. You'll hear from the Brevard County Sheriff as well. So that's coming up next on the other side of this break. Keep it right here on Fox 35 News Plus.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We brought you just a couple of minutes of the news conference in Brevard County earlier today before we had to switch gears and go to Monique Worrell. So I want to get you back there. We'll start it from the beginning for you as you hear from the Lieutenant Governor, from the Brevard County Sheriff, talking about this Operation One-Way Picket, a 4-day operation with Border Patrol and ICE. They'll give you all the details coming up in this news conference. Let's go ahead and listen in.
I'm going to ask our Lieutenant Governor, Jay Collins, to come up and share some specific details about the operation, but I will tell you that this has been a very active and fluid operation. It is still ongoing. Our teams are still working, and this has been a collection of Border Patrol, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, ICE, and FHP that have all worked together as well as with some of our other partners. But this has been an exciting operation, and I think you're going to be impressed with the numbers you're going to hear. So with that, our Lieutenant Governor, Jay Collins.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to have you all here today. Always a pleasure to be in Brevard and with so many fine people. Sheriff Ivey, thank you for your hospitality. I want to thank everybody who was a part of this. I got to do a ride-along today, get out there on the ground. I think it's important to see senior state leadership out there on the ground, watching, observing, understanding, and being present. You know, we have a few dignitaries here today that I want to recognize. Of course, we have Sheriff Wayne Ivey behind me, Executive Director Dave Kerner from our Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, Dave, we appreciate you as always. Chief Jeffrey Denise, Chief Patrol Agent, United States Border Patrol, Miami Sector, and Garrett Ripa, our Field Office Director, Immigration and Customs Enforcement from the Miami Field Office. We also have my good friend, Senator Debbie Mayfield, directly behind me. I appreciate each of you being here today. You know, what you saw today was incredible. It's federal, state, and local assets working together. That's what the American people expect. They want to see our sheriff's offices, our local community, working with our state, working with our federal government. You know, this isn't a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. It is an American issue. The American people have been incredibly clear. They want illegal immigration taken care of. So I want to thank President Trump, 1, for leading, 2, for listening to the will of the people, and I want to thank Governor Ron DeSantis for all of his hard work and his dedication in stepping forward and making sure that Florida leads in this process. Our approach to the 287G agreement is unique. It has been functional and dynamic, and I think it leads the way. And you'll hear more about that as we go through. Under Governor DeSantis, no state has done more in illegal immigration enforcement under his watch. Florida has been on the forefront of this fight for quite some time. In 2021, Florida initiated a state of emergency to deal with Biden's border crisis. It bolstered law enforcement and state guard units across the state and across our country. In 22, Florida started the illegal immigrant transport program. Florida stood up for American workers by signing a mandatory E-Verify bill into law. And despite the protests from many groups and activists in the media who predicted that would be an economic downfall of our state, it hasn't happened. We are firing on all cylinders. We've required hospitals to collect and report health care costs for illegal immigrants so the public could know the true cost of our open borders on health care systems. We have secured our elections from attempts to illegally infiltrate by cracking down on voting crimes. We recently saw completely avoidable tragedies right here in Florida. I actually had to go to California and bring a person back because he had killed 3 people right here in the state of Florida. What we want people to know is we take this serious. Florida will lead from the front, and I want our Floridians, our citizens, our people, our communities, our families to know that Florida cares about your well-being, we care about the rule of law, and we stand with our men and women in law enforcement. We have launched a full crackdown to hold illegal aliens accountable for operating large semi-trucks without being able to read our road signs, and other active actors involved accountable to keep Floridians safe on the road directly because of that incident. Our FHP is enforcing the federal English requirement for commercial truck drivers, again, because of that incident. More than 170 commercial vehicle enforcement troopers are now actively conducting roadside inspections across the state. We saw a problem and we're fixing a problem because that is what we do here in Florida. So drivers who cannot meet the required English language standards are now being placed out of service immediately on this spot. We will not have more people's lives taken because they cannot read the road signs, they do not follow the laws of our nation and our state, and they should not be out there. So Florida continues to lay the groundwork for maximum participation alongside our federal, state, and local partners to do everything we can to combat illegal immigration. We have more 287G federal agreements and deportations than any other state in the nation. We're butting up against 6,000 right now from the state of Florida. Earlier this year, Governor DeSantis directed the Florida Highway Patrol, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and the Florida State Guard to enter into and fulfill these agreements with ICE to execute functions of immigrant enforcement within this state. We want to thank our ICE colleagues for their dedication to this mission, and we stand beside them. As a result, Florida continues to put more enforcement wins on the board than any other state in the nation. Following our state's leadership, all 67 counties are now actively working this. Our state troopers and law enforcement are conducting immigrant enforcement stops on our roads every single day. Every mile of roadway in the great state of Florida is being patrolled. So in partnership with ICE and the U.S. Coast Guard, we launched deportation flights from Tallahassee, an operation that reflects our expanding coordination. Guys, we're going to continue to innovate. We're going to continue to solve problems. If we see a gap, we're going to fix it, and we're going to put things on the board. So let's talk a little bit about Alligator Alcatraz and Deportation Depot. You know, a few months ago, we stood up one-stop shop for all illegal aliens in deportation in South Florida, Alligator Alcatraz. And in just 8 days, we got that thing up and running. So I want to give a shout out to the Florida Department of Emergency Management and their hard work. Those guys are amazing in setting that up and getting the facility moving. Alligator Alcatraz is on a pre-existing airfield surrounded by the Florida Everglades. It has a massive 2-mile runway that would follow any federal, that would allow any federal military aircraft to transport illegal aliens directly out of country. We recently saw a leftist federal judge order that we should shut down Alligator Alcatraz. Now, we knew that was going to happen. That is the thing that has happened time and time again. That is their ploy, and we knew that we would win on appeal. And as is always the case, we know the media would be out there attacking our operations, attacking what we do, but we knew we would be right, and the media was going to be wrong on this. The leftist judge has been overturned. Alligator Alcatraz is up, as is Deportation Depot, and we're only going to continue to ramp up from here. We also announced that Florida was expanding our illegal immigration enforcement efforts again by opening a new immigration potentially in the future, something up in the Panhandle. The Lake City Airport, which is only 15 miles away from our current Deportation Depot, makes that second one a pretty quick one-stop shop to do amazing things for our state. So Alligator Alcatraz and Deportation Depot are up and running, and if necessary, we will bring more online as time comes. So let's talk about today. I want to highlight the assets we have on the ground. You know, currently in Florida, and in talking to our Border Patrol colleagues, there are 1.1 million criminal aliens. Let's say that one more time. 1.1 million criminal aliens in the state. People that we know were released here at some point in the past. It's a lot of people. Currently working with us from the federal side, we have our ICE partners, our Border Patrol. From the state, we have FHP, ABT, DAX, and our Department of Corrections. And of course, locally, we have Sheriff Wayne Ivey in the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. We also have our National Guard assisting with some of the transportation. I want to thank everybody who's involved. You know, all the best things we learned sometimes seem like they were in kindergarten, so teamwork makes the dream work, right? When we work together, we solve problems and we keep our community safe. So today, we wanted to announce a successful operation led by the Florida Highway Patrol in coordination with our state and federal partners. 354 people who are illegal in our state have been found and will be deported out of our country, back to where they came from. 354. That is significant over 4 days. While other states watch and react, Florida will lead. Our commitment to efficiency and accountability is why Florida remains a national model, and this operation sends a clear and uncompromising message. Florida will not tolerate lawlessness within our borders. We will continue to deploy every available resource to identify, apprehend, and remove those who seek to exploit our state and endanger our people. So Florida has made one thing abundantly clear. We will not surrender to chaos. We will not bend to the failed policies of Washington prior to President Trump, and we will never allow our communities to be overrun by lawlessness. So in Florida, we will lead. Operations like this will continue because under Governor Ron DeSantis, we listen to the American people just like President Trump, and we're going to lead. This is one of many to come where we're going to work with our sheriffs, work with our Highway Patrol, and work with our federal assets to keep our communities safe. But I do want you to know, if you don't want to go through this process, there are multiple ways to self-deport. You've heard about the $1,000 program where you can use that. That's one option. We have other options right here if you are picked up and arrested. Guys, you can self-deport, go back to where you came from, and not have to go through this process if you were here illegally. As we bring this in for a landing and we pass it back to Sheriff Ivey, I want to let our troopers know, our law enforcement know, that I want everybody to understand one thing. Behind the badge, behind the body armor, behind the people out there working day and night are citizens just like everybody else. They are moms and dads, they are brothers and sisters, they are sons and daughters. We owe them every piece of time, every bit of time, every tool, and all of the training necessary to keep their mission on the forefront, to complete it safely, but more importantly, get home to their families. But I want to personally thank each and every one of you for your sacrifice, for what you do on the roads, for what you do in the communities. You are not only keeping our communities safe, but you are a huge part of who we are as a society and as a state. So every day, we're going to use those tools to defend our citizens, protect our families, and preserve the rule of law. Let me make one last thing clear. If you are out there and you're going to actively target our men and women in law enforcement, don't. You will be held accountable. That includes our federal assets here as well. Don't target ICE. Don't put their names or their homes out there. Do not put them at risk. If you do, you'll be found and accountability will come. Florida stands with our brave community heroes without equivocation. Let's say that one more time. Florida stands with our brave men and women in law enforcement, our community heroes. So let this serve as a message to anybody who thinks Florida is a soft target. Think again. We'll find you, we'll stop you, and we will send you out of our state. Thank you for being here. God bless.
I'm going to just kind of come right off of what our Lieutenant Governor was just saying, and that is what you see here representing the different agencies is not the boots on the ground, the men and women that are out there doing the painstaking process of this, putting their lives on the line and stuff. They're the ones that truly deserve the recognition on this, because they're working hard each and every day, not just to keep our community safe, but to keep our country safe in this capacity. So with that, I'm also going to bring up Executive Director Dave Kerner of Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles and Florida Highway Patrol. And I'm going to say that, you know, we've got great partnerships up here with Border Patrol, with ICE, with FHP, with DOC, everybody that's here. The Florida sheriffs have taken a great role in fighting criminal aliens that are in our state. But the Florida Highway Patrol has taken, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, a major role and have had a major impact in this. And that's under the direction of not only Executive Director Kerner, but also Colonel Gary Howells, who's standing up here with us as well. So with that, Executive Director Kerner.
Thank you, Sheriff. Sheriff, thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you for the hospitality and professionalism that you have provided through your deputies over the last several days. It's such an honor for me to be able to watch you work directly with your deputies in an enforcement capacity. It was really fascinating to see the response that the deputies had to get the opportunity to work beside you. But what was clear is that this is something that you do very often. You're a hands-on sheriff. Your community loves and adores you, and they love and adore your deputies and all your staff here at the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. I know that our troopers really were fascinated as well by the professionalism and the experience that your deputies had. So thank you for the very warm reception and hospitality.
Yes, sir.
Governor Ron DeSantis and the members of the cabinet, and joined here today with Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. Lieutenant Governor, you didn't just ride along with one of our troopers. I know from your experience and the feedback that I got that you provided very valuable insight and input on our operations as we seek to apprehend and detain and deport illegal immigrants that are in our community. I wanted to give a little bit of visibility to the press and to the members of this community and the surrounding counties that we're operating in here today and over the last 4 days about how our operations occur. I think it's a very fair premise that the community understands how we reach these very large numbers of apprehensions for deportations. Operation is still ongoing today. We'll probably exceed over 400 people detained on immigration and eventually deported. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we do it so effectively and efficiently? And what is the model that is being implemented? I want to talk about the unified state enforcement model that we're creating here in Florida. How that works is a federally supported, state-led, and locally augmented operation. And what I mean by that is I'm joined here by ICE and by Border Patrol. These are subject matter experts on immigration. What they have done at our request is integrate and embed into our operations directly. And they can provide intelligence to us, and they do. They provide infrastructure for roadside vetting so that when a traffic stop happens and the investigation tends towards the illegal status of somebody that is in that vehicle, we have Border Patrol and we have ICE with us in our vehicles so that they can, on the roadside, do the proper vetting to determine alienage. And that happens very quickly, and it's much more safe to do it on the side of the road quickly and get off the side of the road. The federal government, through the Department of Homeland Security, also provides resources from a logistical standpoint. For those of you watching this broadcast, behind these cameras is a facility where state troopers and other law enforcement officers can bring in real time the person detained for immigration violation right to a processing facility on site here in Brevard County. Sheriff Ivey has been so kind to provide us. What happens there is within a couple of hours, the illegal alien will be processed, will be vetted, will be sent through the proper procedures to issue the proper warrants for deportation, and then will be quickly moved by an ICE bus that is here, or in some instances a Florida Department of Corrections bus, right to a federal facility like Alligator Alcatraz or Deportation Depot, or one of the several ERO enforcement removal operation offices throughout the state, leaving much more bandwidth for our local county jails to house other illegal immigrants through the basic ordering agreements. It's state-led in that Governor DeSantis has directed myself and other state law enforcement leaders through the 287G program to stand up full-time immigration units. We have done that at the Florida Highway Patrol. I believe we're the only state law enforcement agency or otherwise to have full-time troopers dedicated to immigration enforcement 24/7, in addition to the nearly 2,000 state troopers that have been deputized by ICE as delegated immigration officers. And we deploy weekly to different parts of this great state, different counties, in conjunction with the local sheriff to run these operations. And it's locally augmented in the sense that our elected county sheriffs provide the deputies who know their community so well, who know how to conduct immigration enforcement operations. They provide basic ordering agreements so that we can house detainees in their local county jails. And they provide transportation of the UDAs, undocumented aliens, from jails directly to Alligator Alcatraz and Deportation Depot and other federal facilities. So that is the model. This model is really something that has shown great success. When the whole of government approaches this public safety problem together, when we work as one team, that is how we're able to locate and detain nearly 400 people in the span of 4 days. Colonel Howes, thank you for your leadership at the Florida Highway Patrol. Senator Mayfield, I'm so honored to have you here, both because you're a great senator, but also I think it's important for the policymakers of this state who have directed and appropriated funds for these operations and these efforts to see the amazing result of their investment in our operations. I think it's important to see what your state law enforcement officers are doing on a daily basis in conjunction with local deputy sheriffs and the elected sheriffs. And we appreciate the support that the Florida legislature has provided the Florida Highway Patrol and all of our state law enforcement agencies, and from a policy perspective, allowing us to engage forcefully in this mission in law enforcement. It is an honor to be a part of it, and I hope that you are pleased with the results. Florida leads the nation very clearly. Florida is leading the nation in standing up state and local immigration enforcement units, and the numbers show that. And we remain deeply committed to this mission, and it's an honor to be on this team. Thank you, Sheriff.
Next up, we're going to have from the Border Patrol, and I'll say this guy hasn't been very nice to me since he got here, but no, I'm kidding. He's been an honor to work with, Chief Jeff Denisi of our Border Patrol.
Good morning. Thank you, Sheriff. Appreciate the time and the opportunity to work with you and your team. The United States is a nation of laws, which include immigration laws. These laws were enacted to safeguard our nation, protect our communities, and stabilize our economy from the perils of illegal migration, criminals, terrorist organizations, and weapons of mass casualty such as fentanyl and cocaine. Partnerships are the cornerstone of our success. There is no better partner in the fight to protect our freedoms than the state of Florida. They have led the nation to support the Department of Homeland Security and our battle against foreign terrorist organizations. The state of Florida and our Florida sheriffs have embedded in every facet of Homeland Security. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission and our sheriffs patrol our coastlines each day to keep criminals from amphibiously attacking us on our shores. The Florida Highway Patrol and our sheriffs interdict criminal aliens and disrupt smuggling organizations on our highways and byways. Communities, safeguarding our nation. On behalf of the U.S. Border Patrol, thank you to the free state of Florida, Governor DeSantis, Lieutenant Governor Collins, Director Kerner, Director Keefe, Sheriff Ivey, ICE ERO, and our other Florida law enforcement partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Our last speaker is Deputy Director of ICE out of Miami, Kelly Walker, and she's been an intricate part of this from the very start, the design and every aspect of it. So, Kelly, if you would please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelly Walker, and I'm proud to serve as the Deputy Field Office Director for the ICRO Miami Field Office. I'm here on behalf of FOD Garrett Ripa. It's great to be here with all of you today. It's really great and humbling to be here on the stage and platform with the individuals behind me and those law enforcement partners represented across the state that helped us with this mission. Today is about recognition, teamwork, and gratitude. It's about taking an opportunity to step back and appreciate the hard work, sacrifices of the men and women that have been out this week and across the state of Florida protecting public safety. This is a model for future success and the mission that we hope to continue across the country. I want to thank the Trump administration, DHS, ICE, and ERO for their leadership and steadfast support of these continued operations. It's with their support that we're able to roll these out, 287G partnerships, and see great success. I also want to recognize our incredible law enforcement partners that were out this week with us, implementing our shared vision and making our communities safer. We started here in Florida, and it's been tremendous. The Florida Highway Patrol behind us, incredible partners, Florida Department of Corrections, providing us transportation assets, the Florida National Guard, helping out in all of our offices and out here on the operation, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the Florida Department of Emergency Management. The Florida Sheriff's Association have been great partners, and particularly as we stand here in a place where we've had a great operation, excuse me, the Brevard County Sheriff Office providing us this space and helping us with everything that's going on here. I want to personally recognize Wayne Ivey for hosting and strengthening these operations. Really wonderful work out here. The Florida Highway Patrol Executive Director, Mr. Kerner, his colonel, behind us as well, and the entire Florida Highway Patrol team, the Executive Director Larry Keefe for their continued support and dedication and leading the efforts, leading the way in terms of 287G. Our federal partners here with us, the U.S. Border Patrol, ICE Homeland Security Investigations, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. And lastly, I want to thank the men and women of ICE ERO. We do this every day, and we do it without question. We've called many men and women into this operation this week from our offices in Florida and Atlanta and Washington, D.C., and I just thank them for such a successful mission, making sure that we got this done. The numbers speak for themselves. This week, we took enforcement actions on more than 350 aliens in Brevard County and Central Florida. That's just 350 out of the hundreds, if not thousands, that we've arrested across the state in the same week. These operations have led to removal of countless individuals who are unlawfully present in the United States, many of whom engaged in criminal activity in your communities and are no longer here to offend. Each arrest and removal represents a step forward in protecting our neighborhoods, upholding the rule of law, and ensuring the safety of the American people. However, for ICE, this is a solemn week for us. Our office in Dallas, Texas, the ICE office was targeted. We stand with our ICE office in Dallas. But we recognize the threats are ever present against ICE officers. We have seen a significant increase of targeted attacks on ICE officers and our 287G partners and our Border Patrol partners as we do this enforcement mission. It's a hard time to be a law enforcement officer, but we are not scared of the targeted violence. We know that we have the support of the state of Florida in watching our backs. In light of this, we are especially thankful for the state of Florida. We ask that the state help us with some additional assets, physical security assets and measures, and they did that without question. They upped patrols, the Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Association, and the police chiefs to ensure that our buildings are safe. Our federal partners are doing the same. The support is not something that we take for granted. It's a state run by leaders like Governor DeSantis and like Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins that uphold the rule of law and unequivocally supports its law enforcement community. For that, we are so thankful. The work we do is not easy, the stakes are high, but time and time again, the men and women on this platform and the teams they lead rise to the occasion. We demonstrate resilience, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to public safety and the rule of law. To everyone involved in these operations, thank you. This is a demonstration of power of partnerships. It's working really well here in the state of Florida. It's only going to get better. We look forward to the next time and the next operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So I'll close out. You know, you heard the number 354, 350 plus. Others have been taken in since that number was given out. What I will tell you is that our goal was to create a model for other agencies across the state of Florida to utilize, but also other states across the country to utilize. Governor DeSantis has made illegal immigration, combating it, a priority. And I will tell you that if you went back just a short time ago, you wouldn't see local and state partners working with the feds on immigration issues. It wasn't allowed, but President Trump put it into play where we could all through the 287G program be partners, have the results like you see today, and I think you're going to see these operations continue. You heard a big number that was put out by the Lieutenant Governor about how many are actually in the state of Florida that came into our country illegally, and our teams are going to continue to work together to make sure that we're keeping our community safe. And I get it. I know there are those out there that don't agree with this, but even they have to agree that if you come into our country without permission, if you come into our country illegally, you broke the law. And we are a nation of law and order. And as you guys very well know, in Brevard County, we are definitely a county of law and order. So we are going to do our jobs. Our teams are going to put those that came to our country illegally in the hands of our federal partners, and we are going to continue to work together to do it. So with that, we'll take a couple questions. I'm sorry, say. Yes. Yeah. I think we're about 150 of that were out of Brevard County. I may be off on that number a little bit, but I know there's been some that have been taken in since we have been standing here. And you notice we all started up here, but then we figured out the shade was back there. So as this went on, we backed up a little bit. So, but I'm gonna, Melanie, I'm gonna say about 150 around in there. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that we will be looking at the tentacles that reach that, because those that are hiring them illegally and employing them illegally have to answer for that as well. So our teams will be continuing to look at that as we go. I don't have that number. So I just look at it this way, Robert. If you came here illegally, you broke the law. And, you know, for me personally, we're going to enforce that part. We're now able to be involved in that. So, you know, I know there's things that happen at different levels, and I know what the president's intent with that is. And the president has been so instrumental in all of us being able to work together in this. But for me, it comes down to simple law and order. And when we go out and we're interacting with these folks, we get with our federal partners and they tell us they're here illegally and they have to go. So that's kind of the aspect we work from. Anything else?
These numbers that you presented today, is that just in Brevard County? But I did also hear that Central
Yeah, so there, it extended out into some areas of Central Florida, and we had great partners in working all of that. As I said, the Florida Highway Patrol obviously gives us statewide jurisdiction, which works very well with us in that regard. So we were all over Brevard County yesterday. The entire length of Brevard County, from Palm Bay to Titusville, was where the operation was taking place. I know a lot of our citizens saw, you know, Star and FHP's helicopter up and having a watchful eye over us and stuff. So we were all over out there. So, all right, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I know it's hot out here. Thank you for your attention, and certainly thank you for all your support of us. Everybody have a great day.
Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey and some other officials there wrapping up that news conference earlier today outside the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, where they were talking about those large immigration raids. I think they said 150 or so who were detained in connection with that 4-day operation, joint operation with Border Patrol and ICE as well. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we've got more to get to, so keep it right here live on Fox Local and on YouTube.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We're marking the one-year anniversary of Hurricane Helene, which caused absolute devastation in western North Carolina, places that saw certainly much more of an impact than we even dealt with here in Florida. But there were still impacts of Hurricane Helene here in Florida. And also don't forget Hurricane Milton on its heels just a couple of weeks after that. Officials in St. Pete held a news conference earlier today marking those anniversaries of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. This news conference was held at Tropicana Field, which, as you know, had its roof torn off during Hurricane Milton. There are repairs underway when it comes to trying to get that field ready for the Tampa Bay Rays in time for opening day 2026. We heard from St. Pete Mayor Ken Welch earlier today. He was giving updates on the short-term and the long-term disaster recovery efforts in the city of St. Pete, and also talked about preparations and ways that the city is trying to strengthen the city to withstand any future storms. So I want to play for you this news conference as we heard from Mayor Ken Welch in St. Petersburg earlier today.
Just 2 weeks after that, we will be gearing up again to respond to Hurricane Milton. I remember sitting in the Emergency Operations Center with our city staff, working through every single contingency from evacuations to sheltering and recovery, and thinking about what our city would look like after these storms passed. I remember the sound of the winds outside our EOC through the night as Hurricane Helene made its way through our city and through our state. I recall our teams moving out for first push as soon as the storm passed. And I recall surveying the damage with our team very early the next morning after Helene passed and seeing debris and flooding and impact like I have never seen. We met with our residents and saw the stress and devastation in their faces as they began the monumental task of rebuilding their lives. I even remember getting a briefing from our emergency management team that despite all of that, we were going to see another hurricane in just 13 days. At that time, I wasn't sure what the future of our city would look like, but I knew that we would be committed to the long road to recovery for our community. These hurricanes changed our community forever. In those 2 weeks, we experienced record levels of storm surge, damage, and debris. Our community hasn't faced anything like this before. However, it's in the immediate aftermath of these hurricanes that we saw the true spirit of St. Pete. Our neighbors moved into action and began helping people haul debris off their property. Organizations were hosting food and supply drives for anyone impacted by storms. It was truly incredible watching the community band together after back-to-back storms. We're here at Tropicana Field today to reflect on the last year since Hurricanes Helene and Milton. As you can see behind me, we've made great progress on Tropicana Field repairs in the last year, and I want to thank our staff for their hard work. I'll provide a brief update on those repairs later in my remarks. Also, later in the press conference, we will recognize some of the remarkable individuals and organizations that displayed true community spirit and innovation in their recovery efforts. These individuals and organizations identified a need in the community during the initial aftermath of the storms, and in the last year have since developed that idea into a larger effort or program to better serve the community for future disasters. The people we are recognizing today demonstrate the true spirit of what We Are St. Pete truly means. In addition to our one-year recognition, we'll also provide an update on our long-term recovery efforts to date and highlight Fire Rescue's new high-water rescue vehicles. In terms of long-term recovery, we know it will take years to fully recover from the back-to-back storms of 2024. Long-term recovery is a massive and complex undertaking that will take some time. In the initial aftermath of the storms, our focus was on immediate short-term recovery. This work included things like finding short-term housing for impacted residents, removing debris throughout the city, and facilitating recovery funding for our community. We took extraordinary efforts in our initial response, including establishing the We Are St. Pete Fund and establishing a hometown recovery haulers program. I'm proud of those efforts and the work our city team did in the initial aftermath of the storms. However, in the last year, we've also made incredible strides in our long-term recovery efforts. Long-term recovery will require perseverance. Our city team has made this their priority in the last year, and I'm proud to discuss just some of the work that they've accomplished today. To date, we've secured approximately $40 million in reimbursements from FEMA. We've received reimbursements for projects that included debris removal, emergency protective services, and other actions taken from the hurricanes. In addition to our FEMA reimbursements, we've received approximately $13.9 million in insurance payments to date. To date, that's a total of approximately $54 million secured to help our city recover. We continue to work with the Florida Division of Emergency Management and FEMA to secure additional reimbursements for our remaining projects. We also successfully launched the Sunrise St. Pete program with $159.8 million in funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And we are one of only 2 Florida cities to receive direct funding. The Sunrise St. Pete program will support housing, infrastructure, and community recovery. This program was developed with input from the community to ensure it accurately reflects the recovery needs of St. Pete. In August, our draft action plan was approved by HUD, and we are now working to finalize our grant agreement. We plan to bring that agreement to City Council on October 2nd for acceptance and appropriation. Following approval, the grant agreement will then be sent to HUD. Once our grant agreement is finalized, we will expect the initial Sunrise St. Pete programs to launch in early 2026. The programs expected to launch are residential recovery and elevation programs and our disaster relief reimbursement program. In compliance with federal requirements, Sunrise St. Pete prioritizes income-eligible homeowners, ensuring that 70% of the funds benefit low to moderate income households. More information on Sunrise St. Pete is available at sunrisestpete.org. In the last year, we've also been focused on increasing our infrastructure strength and resiliency against future disasters. The impacts from last year's hurricanes made it painfully evident that the impacts of climate change have exceeded prior projections and that we needed to adapt our plan. This time last year, we were concerned about our city facilities' ability to handle the record-predicted storm surge and how seriously our facilities would be damaged or even made inoperable. We do not want to be in that position again. So in response, we launched the St. Pete Agile Resilience Plan, or SPAR, to accelerate resiliency projects designed to harden the city's infrastructure. We've already made significant progress on some of these projects, and I'd like to highlight a few. The aqua fence at Lift Station 85, installing flood panels at the Northeast Water Treatment Facility, installing mobile pumps and trailers at lift stations throughout the city, launching our private lateral rebate program, and elevating critical equipment at our water reclamation facilities. These accomplishments barely scratch the surface of what Public Works has been working on and has accomplished. And I encourage you to view the full list of SPAR projects on our website at stpete.org/SPAR, S-P-A-R, and learn more about how the city is working to increase our resiliency against future disasters. I also want to provide a quick update on our post-disaster emergency permits. As one of the last municipalities to waive permit fees for post-disaster emergency permits, we've waived $2.9 million in permit fees to date. We've issued more than 14,500 post-disaster emergency permits. The total construction value from our post-disaster emergency permits is approximately $299 million. We anticipate that we'll be back to normal blue sky review times by the end of this month. And finally, let's talk about Tropicana Field repairs. We all remember that picture of the roofless Tropicana Field Stadium after the storms. That image really captures the violence of the storms and the significance of the impact. However, a year later, we have made significant progress on our repairs and anticipate the stadium will be ready for the 2026 season. I've been able to get a behind-the-scenes look at the repairs, and I truly admire the workers who you probably see working now, who are fearlessly repairing this roof and very skillfully. 6 roof panels have been successfully installed. I thought I counted 7 on the way in. I know they're working on 2. Are we up to 8? Up to 8. In terms of non-roof repairs, we've submitted permit drawings for interior repairs, and those are currently under review. We anticipate that the roof installation will be completed by the end of the year, and will start on turf installation and other major interior work at that time. And again, we anticipate the entire project will be completed by April 2026. And kudos to our team and our contractors. In closing, overall, you'll see it's been a busy year since Hurricanes Helene and Milton impacted our community. I want to thank our city staff for their dedication, tenacity, and perseverance. They've worked to rebuild our community as many were rebuilding their own lives and homes. They've accomplished this monumental feat while also balancing their other everyday responsibilities in the city. We will never forget the lasting impacts these storms had on St. Pete, and I'm honored to be here with you today as we reflect on the last year. I'll now turn it over to Fire Rescue Chief Watts, who has some exciting things to share regarding our brand new water rescue vehicles. And after Chief Watts, we'll hear from our Chair Copley Gertis to highlight some of the community innovators that I mentioned earlier. It's been a long year. It's been a productive year. I couldn't be more proud of our St. Pete team. We are St. Pete. Chief Watts.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Good morning. 1 year after Hurricane Helene challenged our community, St. Petersburg Fire Rescue is proud to announce a significant upgrade in our ability to serve our community during future storms. Helene brought unprecedented high water rescues, which highlighted the need for enhanced capabilities. That experience drove change, leading to the acquisition of these specialized high water rescue vehicles. These vehicles are true game changers, designed specifically to meet the unique needs of our community in high water conditions. Equipped with lift gates, they provide a safe and stable way to transfer our citizens, especially those with mobility challenges, and they also ensure a safer working environment for our responders. These multifaceted vehicles dramatically improve our service. They can move through flooded neighborhoods, establish critical water supplies in areas cut off from traditional resources, and safely transport residents and responders. We're strategically deploying these vehicles based on historical data and can reposition them rapidly as conditions evolve. This investment directly addresses the lessons of Hurricane Helene, ensuring that when our city faces rising waters again, your St. Petersburg Fire Rescue is more capable, more flexible, and more resilient. For you, our residents, this means faster and safer rescues and greater peace of mind, knowing that your St. Petersburg Fire Rescue is prepared to better serve your needs in any emergency. St. Petersburg Fire Rescue stands ready, stronger, safer, and more capable than ever before. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to everyone involved who played a role in securing these essential vehicles for our community. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Council Chair Gertis.
Good morning, everybody. So before I start my comments, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about a year ago this morning. And I want you to imagine, maybe you were lucky enough to wake up in your own bed that morning. But there were some people who woke up in their It was astounding. And in that moment, it became very clear to me just how much work lay ahead of us. But in that immense uncertainty, I saw something truly remarkable. Neighbors helping neighbors clean up their yards. Strangers checking in on one another. Acts of kindness and generosity beyond compare. In a moment that could have felt dark and overwhelming, the best of humanity shined through in the city of St. Petersburg, like the sunshine did the next morning after the storm. And Mayor, I have to say, Sunrise St. Pete is the perfect name for our disaster recovery dollars, because the sun will continue to rise in St. Petersburg. Fast forward a year. I couldn't be more proud of staff. I will double down on this. I could not be more proud of staff. The departments across the city, there are too many to name, that went day after day, hour after hour, minute after minute to make sure that our community was safe, is one of the most remarkable things I have ever seen in my life. I want to give one shout out, like I did a couple of weeks ago, to our codes department. Our codes department in a normal year sees about 35,000 codes violations. This year to date, they are dealing with 55,000 because of continued investment in the storms from a year ago. That means over the last year, they have not been able to do the regular work of their department. They continue to invest on storms that happened a year ago. I could not be more proud of that department. Together, we've removed 2.1 million cubic yards of debris. You've heard me describe that. I won't do it again. We've installed an aqua fence at Lift Station 85. Greenlit high water vehicles. Vice Chair Hanowitz, thank you for your leadership on that. And hardened the Northeast Water Reclamation Facility. You've heard me say it before. It's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you can take the hit. But our recovery has not been led by government alone. The back-to-back hurricanes demonstrated the strength and resilience of the St. Petersburg community itself. Over the last year, many local organizations have stepped up, finding innovative ways to support families, rebuild neighborhoods, and reimagine what recovery looks like for all of us. Today, I want to highlight some of those recovery innovators who have joined us today, and if you would please stand. Radio St. Pete, Sarah Hips, Show Up Relief Alliance, I Care, Disha Marshall with Kenwood Neighborhood Association, Matt Thorne with Shore Acres Neighborhood Association. Personally, from me, all of you, we could not have done it without you. Frankly, I would not have wanted to do it without you. Thank you for your partnership and your continued investment into the resiliency of this community. The work is not done, but as I look around, I can see the sun rising. I can see things moving forward. And as we carry the lessons we've leaned into today, into the future, we continue to shape the decisions that make our city safer, stronger, and more resilient. Thank you.
That concludes our press conference. We'd be happy to take any questions you might have. Hi. You know what? I guess the logistics. Can you say that again, like louder? So we think we've got a handle. It's the high water bills is what you're asking. So we've got a handle on that. It was a combination of metering, the impact where some of the houses were unreadable, old technology that was used for estimating. So that combination really caused that spike. With 95,000 accounts, you're going to have always some high water bills. In fact, we have a bill commission that reviews those. So we think we've got a handle on the causes. In between new meters, the new system, the Tyler system that will replace Naviline, which is a a legacy system. We think we've got a handle going forward, and also the changes that we made in the code with City Council's support give us a much more flexibility in dealing on those one-off cases that seem, you know, illogical. Why can't you deal with a $1,000 bill? Well, the code restricted us in some cases. All those things have been in place, so we think we've got a handle on it. There will still be high water bills when you've got almost 100,000 accounts, and we think we've got a way to deal with those on an individual basis. Well, like I said, it's a case-by-case basis. We've done all the things that I just outlined. If someone has an issue, contact my office if you can't get a hold of anyone else, and we'll take a look at it. But each case is really different. We are looking at that as a priority. We've been committed to that, and we'll continue to be committed to it. Yeah. You want to? Okay. Assistant Administrator Tom Green has some comments on that.
Good morning. To the mayor's point, you know, we track and monitor a couple of different metrics with respect to bills. And one of them, or a combination of them, is 2 times and 4 times the 3-month prior average. And so the numbers that we're seeing show that we have normalized to pre-storm readings from, let's take July of 24. The numbers in July of 25 are very.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is Lieutenant Paul Bloom with the Marion County Sheriff's Office getting ready to give an update on a missing Marion County teen. A lot of questions about this situation with the Amber Alert that came in last night, and we've learned today that some of the information that was originally given out there's not evidence to support it. So let's go ahead and listen in.
Yesterday, just feverishly working on this case. This case came in as quite literally a shock to us, and certainly to you and all the citizens here in Marion County and around Florida. Our initial report was we responded to a shooting. This was 4:10 in the afternoon yesterday. This is in about the 12,800 block of Highway 484. That's near the Dunnellon Airport, not too far away. And the area around there is somewhat rural, wooded area. And when we arrived, we did find evidence of a shooting, an abandoned vehicle there belonging to Mr. Caden Spate, and the investigation began there. What we learned was that Caden had let a family member know that there was may possibly been abducted by 4 men in a white van, and described them as Hispanic. Our investigation started there, right? So we reached out with tips that were coming in, physical evidence there. Our forensics team responded and began an investigation alongside of our detectives. And what we learned through that investigation, and this is going again over all through the night and into this morning, is that the shooting or the abduction by some folks in a van, that was unfounded. That is we've not been able to verify that at all, and in fact confirm just the opposite. What we did find out is that Caden Spate did stop off at a couple local stores, including Walmart, prior to this incident occurring, and we've distributed some photos of him there at the Walmart. He purchased a bicycle, a sleeping tent, sleeping bag, and I believe he has a backpack with him, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and evidence suggests that he left from that scene on the bicycle. So right now we have we're not pursuing this as him being abducted by 4 Hispanic males in a van. That has been proven to be untrue. However, we are still looking at this as a missing endangered juvenile. He's 17 years old, and we have a lot of folks out there, many teams that are helping out, including aviation, and we have other agencies that have come alongside of us as well with search dogs and search teams, the like. Our forensics team is continuing to their follow-up with the evidence that's been collected and investigate this further. Understand some of the evidence right now is going to be just that. It's going to be evidence. We're not going to be able to give you everything as much as I would like to and help clarify some things for you. Understand I will be restricted on some of the things I can say because we are still investigating a shooting call. So we want to know everything about this call before we make a final judgment, final statement, and wrap up this investigation. So
I'll try to answer a few questions if I can that you may have, but just understand there may be some that I cannot.
Lieutenant, his mother had posted on Facebook that she received some text message. Have deputies located his phone, and his phone still believed to be with him?
So we did get a report there that from the mother that she had received text messages from Caden, and that's where the report initiated. I can tell you we are in possession of that, and our detectives are following up with those details and seeing what we can find out.
Possession of his phone?
Correct.
So you're saying that there was a text message that was received from Caden saying that he was taken by 4 Hispanic males. However, now that's been retracted. What's that new evidence that you guys have found to be able to say, hey, no, this was not 4 Hispanic males?
So there's a multitude of evidence and techniques, investigative techniques that we use to determine that, and we wanted to be very thorough and very complete. And again, that's why I say I appreciate your patience in this. I know that we've been wanting to know some updates on this. It's a very, very critical case and certainly has all of our attention. But unfortunately, I can't give you all those details of how it was, but through investigative techniques and physical evidence at the scene, we were able to determine that.
Was the phone found at the scene there? Was the phone found by the vehicle?
Yes.
A text message was in fact sent, though. That part was true.
We received a report from family members that he had texted, correct.
And we have not been able to confirm if there was a shooting at the place then?
We are investigating a shooting. There is evidence of a shooting there. We're investigating that. That's why we still have this as this person is missing and endangered. We want to follow up, and we're not wrapping that part of the case up just yet. We want to know all the details about that. So when we have a shooting investigation, we're looking at everything: angle of the shot, type of firearm used. We're trying to determine all of those pieces of information so we can piece this together.
Was there evidence that anybody was hit at this shooting to make you continue to investigate this as a shooting, or is there just shells?
So the evidence at the scene, I can't get into too much detail about that, other than to say that yes, there was a shooting there. Whether anybody was directly injured or not, I cannot get into that right now, but there's enough evidence there for our team of detectives to determine that we need to further investigate this.
So do y'all believe any other evidence of a shooting?
Yeah, the exact details of what was there, just all I can say is there is evidence of a shooting taking place. That's pretty clear to us, but the details of it have not been released just yet.
Do y'all believe the text came from Caden?
We do, yes,
Okay.
yes we do.
You can tell us about what led up to any of this, any arguments or trouble at home with friends, anything like that?
Well, as with any case like this, we're going to talk to as many people as we can that know Caden, that are around him, and we've done that. And we've had detectives that have just been up all night doing this, and the second team has come on and continued this. But we right now don't have anything. There was no evidence to suggest that this was going to happen, or that this was a planned event that he let anybody in on. So we don't know that this was anything about more than this than the folks closest to him. So we're still digging, and we're still taking in any kind of tips, any kind of leads, information that folks may have. You saw him, or you're on 44 at 4:10 in the afternoon is a very busy road. So we know somebody saw something, however small, and some of those folks have come forward and let us know. Please reach out to our detectives, let them know. We want to follow up on every single lead we have.
So what about the resources used to this? What, in a normal missing teenager case, if you'd known everything from the beginning, what that response would have been, and what the response was given the facts that you were given, how much more did taxpayers spend on this than otherwise would have been spent?
Well, we have a missing teen, and this could be a child that ran away. This could be we'll say maybe an autistic child that walks off from home. We're gonna not withhold anything. We're gonna send everything. As a father myself, I can tell you my most valuable possession are my children. So I think every citizen feels that way, and they expect that from us, and they should expect that from us. A very overwhelming response, and we called on other agencies. The Florida DOC brought out their bloodhounds to help us, as a matter of fact. So yes, to answer your question. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, so update now. This just coming in. We are with him right now, and he is in good health, and we are furthering investigation as we speak. So again, this is happening as we're going along here, but we do have him. That's the good news. That's great to hear. And but yeah, getting back to your question on the resources, that's exactly why we don't want to do this. If we can bring anybody else in here to help us with this and bring a quick closure, that's what we're going to do, and obviously it's working.
Can you say who you have?
Caden has been found, and
Details of how they found him, where they found him?
nothing yet. Yep, she just told me that we have just found him, and he is alive and well.
So what about the work truck that was found? What about that? What you said had been shot? What about that?
So there's a vehicle that belongs to Caden that was there on the side of the road, and that is part of the investigation still. So again, this is we have him safe and sound. That's the great news, and I think as a parent, that's more than great news. But we're going to continue that investigation with the truck and the shooting that clearly took place there.
Could he be looking at any possible charges for the way this was found, how this went down?
So asking about could Caden be facing charges? That question's come up already. Potentially, yes. Right now, the important thing for us is reuniting him with his parents, who are quite a bit distraught and sleep deprived, and as you can just imagine, just the most stressed they've ever been, probably. So getting him back to his family, but we want to look into this and see what's the causes, what was his plan, what was the reason. So as we further that and go a deeper dive on that, we can let you know.
So, Lieutenant, the original reports that led to the items about talking about the van, the shooting, that came from him?
I'm sorry, say it again.
The original communications to SO that led to the thought of a van or a shooting, that came from him?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
So who reported the shooting? He reported the shooting?
So the mother of Caden is the one that contacted us to let us know that her son was texting her that this was happening. So our detectives went into high alert. We called everybody that we could to come help us, and if that's the initial information that we have to act on that and not make any assumptions until we prove otherwise. And so that's what they did all through the night.
I know you just got that update now, but can you say where he was found? I know he's with y'all, but where was he found?
Don't know. I'll have that information here shortly, I'm sure, and we'll do an update to this press release as well. And I know in the next 20, 30, 40 minutes we'll be getting some of those updates. That I don't know. Haven't determined that. He is from Denellen, so that area of 484 is just several miles outside of Denellen, close to the Denellen airport.
Just to confirm, there was no 911 call made about the incident or the shooting when it happened?
There may be a 911 call. I don't know, but yes, that the call came to us. Whether it was 911 or if it was our non-emergency, I don't know.
Has he ever run away from home before?
I don't believe we have any reports of that.
Since the Amber Alert came in, have you been getting tips from people? Approximately how many? What's been the outpouring and the response from the community?
Well, the approximate number is overwhelming. So we haven't been able to approximate how many tips, which is great. It goes statewide, this Amber Alert, and folks have called us and give us a lot of leads. Some of those have been substantial and others not, but we take every one of them serious. Just a great outpouring of the citizens here, and it's something that affects all of us. And I think a lot of parents, it's a tragedy that seemed to be unfolding that none of us ever wanted to imagine. So I think rightly so, the public was very, very intrigued by this and very curious to see how this turned out and wanting to help. And we always say we cannot do this job ourselves. We always appreciate the public's help and the help from the media that gets this message out to the folks to help us.
So no one else was involved in this shooting that day?
As far as we know, the folks that are involved, we don't know that yet. That part of the investigation has not been completed, but we'll find out. All right, got time for just another question or two?
When you say he's with you, do you mean he's like currently being taken to the hospital, or just being taken to where is he now?
Don't know exactly where he is. He's been located by our deputies, so he's with our deputies right now and investigators. But they don't know his condition as far as if they want to have him checked out. They may, but otherwise, all I'm hearing is that he's in good health and he's with our deputies.
You can't say if he was found in Denellen or around?
No, we'll find that out. I just don't know yet.
Is the scene still active? I know it was this morning.
Yes, it'll still be active for a little while, and as we're moving along.
When you say he's in good health, does that imply that he wasn't shot as initially thought?
That's correct. In good health, not shot. Yeah, being shot would be not in good health. All right.
If you care to comment on this, we live in kind of strange, polarized times, and where do you thread the needle between putting information out there that you believed incredible at the time, but perhaps you might want to take with a grain of salt later? In this case, you have a young man who said 4 Hispanic men in a van have got me, and what potential does that have to set off alarms around with all sorts of people saying, like, looking out for Hispanic men in a van, like making sure it's the right information, but versus too much information.
Right. So at that moment, the only information that we had was what he gave his mother. And that was it. And so for us to cast that aside and not act on that would be a failure on our part. So we have to act with what we know. And if as you follow us, and I know most of you do follow us on social media, and you see we update as we get these updates, and that's why I wanted to meet with you guys today, just as we get these updates, letting you know, because we don't want, the last thing we want is false information out there. We want accurate information, as I'm sure your news stations do. But unfortunately, sometimes the information you have is the only information you have, and we have to act on that until we determine otherwise. And that investigation did just that. It determined otherwise, and that's why we immediately when we found out this morning, released that information. Hey, we're not looking for a white van. We're not looking for anything further. We're just investigating a shooting and a missing child at this point. But yes, thank you. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Lieutenant Paul Bloom from the Marion County Sheriff's Office with an update and breaking news here on Fox Local this afternoon. We know a missing teen, Caden Spate, has been found safe and sound after that Amber Alert last night. He also unpacked some of what the initial situation was. They said they did find evidence of a shooting that had initially been reported that Caden had believed to potentially be involved in. The good news is he is okay. He is in good health. He has not been shot. We learned that today. According to investigators, he had told his mom that he was abducted by 4 men in a van. They said that was unfounded. They did find that he had stopped at a local store, bought a tent and a sleeping bag. And so investigators said just a little bit before this that they were no longer treating this as an abduction, but as a missing and still endangered juvenile. He is 17 years old. And then you saw someone from the sheriff's office pull Lieutenant Bloom aside, give them the breaking news that we were able to bring you live here on Fox Local, that missing teen has been found. He is in good health, safe and sound, but you can only imagine what that night was like for his parents, given what they had heard yesterday. He was last seen around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Obviously, the scary message to hear and the scary circumstances that were believed to have surrounded this until investigators were able to rule that out. But again, so coming up on 24 hours, but he has been found. He is safe, even after a scary situation that led to that Amber Alert being sent out last night. Well, we're going to take a break here on Fox Local, but we still have much more to come, so keep it right here on Fox Local and on YouTube, and we'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and we appreciate you joining us on this Friday afternoon where we have had a lot of news today. We just had the breaking news update on that missing Marion County teen who's been found safe and sound. We've had a number of news conferences throughout the day. It has been a busy day. We're also, I should tell you, expecting to hear from the governor, the attorney general, and ICE speaking around 2:30, so about an hour from now. They're holding a news conference in Tallahassee. We will bring that to you live coming up on Florida Live in our 2 o'clock hour. They'll be talking about 287G agreements, talking about that with ICE. Meanwhile, State CFO Blaise Ngolia has continued his tour across the state, talking about excessive and wasteful spending that he has found, close to $700 million, he says, in just a handful of counties and cities that he has seen some of the initial results of the DOJ audits from so far. Yesterday, he was in Alachua County. We brought you just a little bit of that news conference live yesterday before something else happened to begin that we ended up going to, but he identified $84 million of what he calls excessive and wasteful spending in Alachua County. Here is some of what the CFO said about what they found there.
In order to find out how much government is spending excessively, we have to have a baseline. We have to go back in time and pick a number in years past, and then what we do is we index that number going forward for inflation plus population. So we went back to the 2019-2020 fiscal year. We took their budget, and the reason why we did that was pre-COVID, because we had a lot of money coming in, filling government coffers with COVID money, so we wanted to take the money in the budgets before COVID started. That was 2019-2020. Then we took it and we indexed it every year, raising it for inflation and population to get an idea of where the budget should be in today's dollars. Does all that make sense? Okay. So that's what we're doing. And I would argue that increasing your budget for inflation and population is probably being really good to the big tax spenders, because who says because you increase a population by $20,000 that you have to increase your budget by $150 million? I mean, we don't do that at the state. Our budgets have actually gone down over time, and our cost per citizen actually has gone down in the state. State dollars, our budget, the more people that come in, because we run more efficient. Just because we have more people coming into the state doesn't just go out and just hire a whole mass of people. But unfortunately, that's what local governments are doing. So once we start doing those calculations in Alachua County, starting off with years past the 2019 to 2020 budget, and we index it for inflation and population growth, we find that in Alachua County there is about $84 million worth of wasteful spending. This amount of spending is an eye-popping number for a local government, smaller government than what we would see in Orange County and in the city of Jacksonville. Now, this number includes property taxes, general fund, but it also includes a lot of other fees and services that they charge for over and above property taxes, separated from property taxes. This also includes some COVID dollars that I believe that they are still spending. Like I said, the way they do their budget here, it's a little confusing, to say the least. We are wondering why they're still spending COVID dollars 5 years after COVID. But I will tell you that we have seen in budgets in years past, COVID dollars have been used basically for one thing: to expand government. Local governments are taking the extra revenue from COVID dollars, the extra revenue from property taxes. They're expanding their bureaucracies. They're spending money on new spending programs, which the taxpayers, I don't believe, would like, nor should it be the original intent, nor should it be the function of government to spend it on these things. And then they're taking programs that probably shouldn't be spent by taxpayer dollars anyway and expanding those programs. So today, we're here to announce that we believe, my office believe, in conjunction with the governor's DOGE efforts, that $84,831,843 is excessive and wasteful spending. So, what does that mean? We put this stuff into context. When we go back to the 2019 budget and we work forward to the 2024-2025 budget, we find that Alachua County's general fund budget, that portion of the budget that is funded by your property taxes, has increased $140 million, an increase of 77%. When I said that local governments were expanding in between 60 and 120%, there you have it. There is the proof. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that local governments are going to come out, they're going to talk to our friends in the media, and they're going to give every excuse of that money, where that money is going. They're going to say things like we're spending it all on fire and police. The first thing I will tell you is that we've already accounted for fire and police. When I said we go back and we start indexing for inflation and population, that means budgets are going to grow when you start doing that, because as populations grow, you are going to need more fire. You are going to need more police. What it doesn't mean that you're going to need more bureaucrats. And that's what we have seen. A lot of these governments are expanding the bureaucracy, not necessarily the things that they are supposed to be funding. I will tell you this. The first role of government is to protect its people. And you do that by making sure that they fully fund fire and police. But local governments will use first responders sort of like a boogeyman in terms of negotiating. They're going to say that we can't do this because the sheriff wants to do this, or we can't do this because the fire chief wants to do that. I'm telling you here today that it's all rhetoric. It's a shell game. They have more than enough money to fund essential services, deliver on their promises, and cut their budgets at the same time. The sad reality is that they just don't want to. Now, that increase of $140 million, a 77% increase, is only for population growth of $15,605. Think about that. 15,600 people has caused the budget to go up $140 million? How? If this was a local business running this, they'd be bankrupt very, very quickly. But not only does government thrive over this, government continues to thrive over it, and the only way we stop it is if we, as citizens, tell government to stop spending, and they give us property tax relief and just the amount of spending, or we're going to have to do it at the ballot box by ourselves. Now, those 15,000 people that moved into the county were accompanied by an increase of 136 new employees. I just don't get it. Now, some of this is fire and police, but a lot of it is the bureaucracy. Because again, as populations increase, you have to keep our people safe, you have to increase fire, and you increase police. But this is bureaucratic stuff that they're expanding. And the problem is that when you increase the bureaucracy, it's harder to tear the bureaucracy down. If it was just funding a line item, you can just say, hey, no, I can get rid of that line item. But they add people on purpose to make it harder and harder to actually cut government. Now, why is that number, why are those last two numbers important? So we're going to put that in context for you right now. When you have a population increase of 15,600 people and you add 163 people, the cost per person starts getting astronomical. What this means is for every person that moves into Alachua County, your local government budget grew by almost $9,000 per person.
And those are some of the numbers from CFO Blaise Ngolia speaking yesterday afternoon in Alachua County. He has now been to Alachua, Hillsborough, and Orange counties, and also the city of Jacksonville, where he's given kind of these top line numbers of what he says his DOJ auditors have found. Now, we still haven't gotten the detailed audit reports. Those are still expected in the coming weeks. That will kind of give us a better idea of what they are breaking down to come to those numbers. But in each of these different counties and cities that he has stopped at and kind of given these numbers, he has talked about the impact on property taxes and giving what he believes would be giving an amount that he believes would be what he calls a simple cut of the millage rate. I believe it was close to 1 mil in some places, at Hillsborough and maybe in Jacksonville as well. This is all part of the push to look at government spending at these localities across the state as part of the push to reduce or get rid of property taxes, which, as we talk about almost daily here on Fox Local, is certainly an ongoing conversation in Tallahassee. Well, we're going to take another quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz was in South Florida yesterday talking about what she believes to be attacks on healthcare funding, vaccines, and the refusal to extend healthcare tax credits that are in the GOP spending bills passed by Congress. She held a news conference yesterday speaking about some of her concerns about this. All of this with the backdrop as well of a potential looming government shutdown if a deal is not struck in Washington, D.C. And she claims that Republicans continuing to refuse meetings with Democrats with that funding set to expire in 4 days coming up at the end of the month. We talked a little bit yesterday about President Trump saying that he believes the Democrats' demands are unreasonable and canceling meetings with Democratic leadership. Here is Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Many folks are aware Republicans just made the deepest cut ever to Medicaid in a bill that takes health care away from 16 million Americans. This will obviously harm our most vulnerable neighbors here in South Florida. In addition to the Medicaid crisis, I know many of you have had a hard time getting a COVID vaccination in recent weeks. Supposedly this is going to get better soon, but my office will monitor this to make sure that it indeed improves. Let's be clear. None of us needs more stress in our lives, and we sure don't need higher costs. We shouldn't needlessly increase the chance that we'll get COVID because of lack of access to the vaccine. Unfortunately, anxiety and higher prices for healthcare are about to get a lot worse than that. As we speak, Affordable Care Act tax credits are about to expire. And when they do, it will explode the cost of seeing a doctor and basic health care for millions of people. Across Florida, notices of higher rates are already arriving in mailboxes. And it absolutely does not have to be this way. In less than a week, the government faces a full shutdown. But Democrats are ready to negotiate to keep it open by ensuring that health care is not gutted. Democrats are fighting for the cancellation of the cruel Medicaid and food assistance cuts, which will be devastating to so many people. We want a spending bill that helps, not harms, families. Growing access to affordable health care is our priority. The partisan Republican spending bill has already failed in the United States Senate. So to keep government open and lower costs, we need bipartisan negotiations right now. This is serious. A Republican shutdown will harm our economy and will do nothing to lower already high costs. So I'll make this clear. Democrats will be back in Washington on Monday, September 29th, this Monday, ready to fight for lower costs and keep government open. As of right now, Speaker Mike Johnson isn't even planning to have the House be in session for the last 2 days of the fiscal year. This is grossly irresponsible. And if the government shuts down, Donald Trump and Republicans have only themselves to blame. I have folks joining me here today who can put a human face on the financial and medical pain we can expect if Republicans allow this healthcare crisis to get worse. And it impacts a lot of us. There are over 4 million people who count on Obamacare for help in Florida, and 209,000 of those folks rely on the ACA coverage in my district alone. For the average ACA customer, costs will skyrocket and blow an average annual hole of $490 in their personal budgets, which is a 72% increase in healthcare premiums. And many families will face even steeper hikes. If these Obamacare price supports are ended at the end of the year, a family of 4 earning $64,000 a year would see annual premiums go up $2,571 or 197%. And for a young, non-smoking Brevard County couple in their mid-30s, the cost for a silver plan would increase by $206 per month, or more than $2,400 per year without those enhanced premium tax credits. Almost no young family has that kind of extra money sitting around. But if that same young family has 2 school-age children to care for on top of that, it's even worse. Costs for a silver plan for that family would climb by $225 a month or $2,700 a year. The cost of living is already too high. Utility, rent, and home insurance prices are skyrocketing in Florida. Walk down the grocery aisles and the price tags on beef, coffee, bananas, seafood, and cheese are all way up. Trump's tariffs are causing a lot of those cost hikes, and families need relief. Families need lower costs, and we need to expand access to quality, affordable care, not gut our health care or kick people off of it. Democrats did not support the Republican spending bill because it causes so much unnecessary pain by continuing to gut health care for the American people. We are fighting to cancel the cruel cuts we've seen. We are fighting to lower costs, and we are fighting to save your health care. Republicans have total control in Washington. They need to sit down with Democrats to reach a bipartisan funding agreement. Democrats are sitting alone at the negotiating table right now. Donald Trump suddenly canceled a meeting with our Democratic leaders that he scheduled. If the government shuts down, Donald Trump and Republicans will be at fault. We need to sit down and talk because people's health care is at stake.
Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz at a news conference yesterday. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon. It is shaping up to be a big weekend at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa this weekend as the undefeated Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, who are also the defending champions. So certainly a big matchup there, and we heard from Todd Bowles talking about this matchup and how the Bucs are preparing for a tough team.
How much will, like on Saturday, for instance, obviously with the accumulation of a full week of practice, kind of going more, full bore, how much will Saturday kind of play a role just in determining kind of, I guess, level of soreness, level of swelling, things like that?
Saturday and Sunday will play a big role. We got to see how they react toward the end of the week. That's why everything is on hold right now.
How was Desmond Watson today?
He was good. He was good. He was out there. He gives us a heck of a look. So I was trying to imitate Jordan Davis, but he was good.
Is there any chance he could be elevated off the practice squad for this game?
No.
Todd, you've had a lot of success against Jalen Hurts. Not many other teams in the league have. What are you seeing different on tape from the Eagles from the last time you guys played them?
I mean, they won the Super Bowl. They got a lot of talent. Last year I think they had a couple guys out. We did too, but they weren't at full strength. We weren't at full strength, but they play with a lot of confidence. They're skilled at every position on both sides of the football, and they understand how to win. That's huge in this league. If you understand how to win and you expect to win, they do a very good job at that, and Sirianni has done a very good job getting them guys prepared every week.
Todd, one of those guys they haven't had the last 2 times that they've played you is A.J. Brown. Can you just speak to the dynamic playmaking ability that he brings to their passing game?
Big play receiver. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, and he's smart. He has very strong hands, and you can be draped all over him. He can still make the catch. So we got our work cut out for us.
Todd, you're one of only 6 teams that haven't lost a game yet. But is there a feeling for you inside this building from a coaching standpoint that, man, we got to play better, maybe even a lot better going forward?
You always got to play better, and you want to play better as the season goes along. You never apologize for winning ball games, so we don't do that at all. But we know we got things to clean up, and it's the start of the season. It's supposed to, but we give ourselves about 4 or 5 weeks where we need to clean up the things we need to clean up, and we got to play better.
What are your concerns on special teams?
We just can't have any negative plays, and we can't have any mishaps. That'll be the biggest thing.
It's always next man up for you guys, and you guys have done that exceptionally well. But having a personal connection with a guy like Mike Evans, who, when you guys helped him get the record, I mean, it was such an emotional celebration for this team last year. What was your reaction on a human level to hearing that Mike would be out for multiple games?
I mean, it hurts. Anytime your stars go out, it's going to hurt, no different than Tristan and Chris when they were out, and they're just coming back. But he's a big part of our offense. Everything goes through him, so we got to adjust, and we've been adjusting all year, and we'll adjust this week.
Every year is different, right? And you've gotten off to good starts before, 3-1. It hadn't been 3-0 yet, but injuries play a role, all that. But what do you think would be different about this team and schedule as part of that to avoid sort of that mid-season or pre-mid-season slump that you've gone through last year?
Well, that remains to be seen, but most of it is just maturity level. Again, the injuries and everything else play a part in it, and it's tough to win in this ball club, in this league. I mean, everybody's going to get better as the weeks go on and kind of pin down what they do best and what they can do best, and they get more film on you, and they get to see you a little bit more. So our focus has got to be there each and every week, and the healthier we are, the better we are, as if with everybody else.
With no preseason, does it seem more true that you got to get about a month into the season before you really find the identity of all these teams?
That's how we see it all the time.
To go back to Sunday, you're really good sometimes at explaining the thought process on decisions, and you guys had that 4th and 1 late where you lined up trying to draw them off sides and didn't, and then let the clock run out rather than take a penalty, which made the field goal 5 yards longer. We're just curious about that decision.
Chase is better between the 40 and the 50 than he is between the 30s.
Todd, you've been pretty successful against the tush push in your time here. Is there any way that you could replicate it or practice it, or is it just come game day, you go over it during the week and you just have to execute it?
You can't. I mean, you just have to execute it. You can line it up and you can try to get guys low and do everything you can possibly do, but you can't replicate their line, their quarterback, and how they do it. So you got to line up, and it's got to be a group effort, and you got to time it and get off the ball at the right time, and you got to be stronger and better, and that doesn't guarantee you anything either. So, you know, saying we had more success in it than everybody else, we probably talking about 3%. You're not saying this 50, 60, 70, 80%. They do a good job at it, and we just have to find a way, if it comes to that, to try to make a play.
What you just said about Chase, how heavily were you leaning on analytics for that? At what point did you kind of make that decision?
I kind of knew that.
What does Godwin, aside from the tactical standpoint, but just his presence, right? He's the guy that's been, you know, everything for this team. He's come back a couple times from injuries, but obviously you don't have Mike. You'd like to have them all, but just what does he bring intrinsically to your team, but beyond just the X's and O's?
He's one of our mentally toughest players. When you see him out there doing all the little things, from blocking to route running to catching and running with the football, his competitive level is so high, and his mental intelligence is so high, it just keeps everybody up, even if other people are down. So it's good to see him out there.
Todd, your stance on the tush push has kind of made you a hero in Philly. You played there. You coached there.
I think I'm a hero.
Can you kind of understand that mentality where opposing fans actually like you for that stance?
I think the only place I might be a hero at is Ishkabibbles down on South Street and getting the cheesesteak. Other than that, it's a good play. It's a creative play for them, and we got to get better as defensive coaches trying to be creative to stop it.
How is Chris Godwin looked at there in terms of his route running, being able to cut and snap off routes on that surgically repaired ankle?
Oh, he's doing all that. He looks good. It's just a matter of getting tangled up and getting those type of things. And guys cutting them or tackling one's legs, you can't simulate those type of things. So those would be things that we're looking at.
You know, so many teams key in on Mike Evans, right? And so Emeka, like we saw in that touchdown in Atlanta, you know, he wasn't getting doubled, and he didn't occupy the attention of Jesse Bates, right? So he was able to get that touchdown. But with Mike out, how does that kind of change how teams, you know, approach you guys? And does then Emeka have to worry about suddenly being the guy where he's getting a bunch of attention like that?
I think he started worrying about that after the first game, but we can't tell how people are going to play us. We're going to have to adjust on the run and anticipate some things and see them for the first time and have plays to counter that.
Todd, the Eagles have decided to come in 24 hours early to both get ready for the Heat. Not sure how that works, but last week was tough for both teams. Do you sense that you guys have some processes that make this an advantage for you when it's this high? Clearly, it's already in their head for this week.
I don't know if it's an advantage. You get mentally tougher. No different than playing in the cold. If you're playing in 10-degree weather, you got to mentally prepare yourself for 3 or 4 hours. When you're playing in the heat, you got to mentally prepare yourself for 3 or 4 hours. So I don't know if it's an advantage or disadvantage. And whoever holds the ball longer, the other team probably going to struggle.
Todd, 2 points on offense. Would you like to see some more targets for the tight ends as a group? And would you like to see more carries for Rashad going forward?
I would like to see us continue to hit the open guy. If that's a tight end, great. If not, I'm happy with the results there. Obviously, Rashad did a good job the first time around, and sometimes the game dictates the carries and the situations, but you always want to see him get splitting carries that way if you can afford to, but it's not etched in stone that it'll go that way.
Todd, to that point, how good has Josh been at just working around all these injuries, the switches on the offensive line, having to chip with tight ends? I mean, how would you rate how Josh is doing handling all the injuries and coaching around it?
I think he's done a great job his first time out signing up for it. I think he's dealt with more injuries than Liam and Dave has dealt with when they were here. So just adjusting things and making sure we can run efficiently with all the guys out and still trying to create ways to score. I think he's done a very good job.
Todd, Coe was put on IR. Do you have an update on the
That was Todd Bowles. We're going to take a break. We'll be back at the top of the hour with more Florida Live, so keep it here on Fox Local.
Florida Live starts now.
All right, so update now. This just coming in. We are with him right now, and he is in good health, and we are furthering the investigation as we speak. So, again, this is happening as we're going along here, but we do have him. That's the good news. That's great to hear. And but yeah, getting back to your question on the resources, that's exactly why we don't want to do this. If we can bring anybody else in here to help us with this and bring a quick closure, that's what we're going to do, and obviously it's working.
Any details? Can you say who you have?
Caden has been found, and
Any details on how they found him, where they found him?
nothing yet. Yep, she just told me that we have just found him, and he is alive and well. So.
Safe and sound, that's the word for Caden Spate, the 17-year-old reported missing last night out of Marion County. An Amber Alert sent out for that. That was a breaking news in a live news conference we brought you about an hour ago, live on Fox Local. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. This is Florida Live, and we appreciate you joining us on this Friday afternoon. It has been a busy Friday afternoon, and again, that break